Are you 40 years or older and you got nagging lower back pain and you're wondering how the heck you're gonna keep training back? Well guys, this is the video for you. Number one, we're gonna address why you might have a bad lower back. And two, how do we successfully substitute exercises to make sure we can continue to grow our back? From my experience, my lower back pain came from me literally letting my gut hang out, not activating my core, and then solely relying on my weight belt. Just slapping it on. I go over like this, take a deep breath in, crank it over, and then I would start my lift and I would just go like this. My waist is completely wrapped tight and I'm not engaging my core. And what happens when you don't engage your core, your back is at risk of being injured. Why? Because your back's not engaged. Check it out. I want you to hold your hand like this and hold your hand back like this. Push, pull, push, pull. Just do that. You can just say if you want to either. But you might feel your core tense up and your lower back. Well, guess what? When you tense your core, your lower back gets tense as well too. They're all connected. So if you are not engaging your core and you're doing lifts where you're hinging or squatting or pressing, whatever it is, guess what's happening? All the force from the ground coming up this way and all the force from the weight coming this way, just compressing your back while you do this and then squat and now my lower back hurts. I have L4 and L5 osteophytes and arthritis. And now I have sciatica. So I have to adjust myself. Here's another reason why you have back issues. You probably just get injured. You probably just decide to train real hard and you pick something up or you do something whack and then your back's out. That's not the end of the story. We can still train back. What we have to do and things that I have done is making sure that I engage my core. Now, we understand that engaging your core is probably one of the most important things to do to make sure your back doesn't get hurt. How do we train back now? Well, exercise selection. If you're injured still and you're not supposed to be lifting, make sure you do what you have to do, physiotherapist, and get yourself healed at least up to at least 8 out of 10 before you start doing anything. If you're in serious pain, don't go to the gym. Get yourself better and then come back. But now we can go to the gym. Here are some things we're gonna do. We're gonna do lat pull downs. Why not pull-ups, Johnny? Well, pull-ups aren't bad either. For the most part, most people can't do pull-ups. And having a hurt lower back, injured lower back, or a nagging lower back, and doing this or having to step on something and you're moving your spine around, and I know I'm exaggerating, but this can definitely irritate your lower back. Now, it can also irritate your lower back when we're doing lat pull downs, but here we have a machine that's gonna keep us locked in. From floor to core, make sure these pads stay nice and tight on our thighs. We're gonna push our toes into the ground to make sure that there's pressure on the top of my thighs so I stay nice and firm. Now, when we have lower back issues, what we wanna do is avoid some common back training mistakes. And that is one, gonna be over arch of their back, because again, this is putting pressure on my lower back. You might think your lats are getting some work, and they might be, but look at the shape of my back. You can't tell me right now that my lower back isn't taking some kind of compression. It is. So what we wanna do is we wanna make sure we put ourselves in a position that we are decompressing our back while we're in this machine. And you can definitely decompress your back doing pull-ups, but again, when it comes to pull-ups, like I said, not everybody can do them. If you're doing assisted, your legs are not in the best position when you're doing it if you're on a machine, if you're on the one that you have to kneel on. Either way, this is gonna be your better option. So, floor to core, tight thighs by putting your toes in the floor. We want to make sure that this decompresses our spine by making sure we stay as upright as we possibly can, and that's gonna come from you. Push your toes in the floor, tight thighs on the pads, and then your core engaged so we stay like this. We don't want our spine doing this. Why? Because we're not doing lower back exercises. We're doing lats. So what does it look like? You're gonna grab your handles up here. You're gonna slide yourself in. You're gonna make sure you're tight. You're gonna push your feet in the ground so you're even tighter. You're gonna get your chest nice and tall. Let everything expand. You're gonna look kind of on a diagonal up. We don't wanna look straight at ourselves in the mirror. You can check yourself out if you want to. But we're gonna look up a little bit and we're gonna pull those elbows to the side, keeping our chest up. What I don't wanna do is do this, because that again is gonna put some stress on my lower back. But if we can keep ourselves in this position, think again, shoulders back and away from my ears. My lats are engaged, my chest is nice and tall, my core is engaged. And from here, letting it stretch and pulling down, and then coming up slow. And it's gonna be even more important that you keep your reps nice and slow with a full range of motion from here, because when we get to the top, guess what? Our spine is being decompressed, nice stretch, and then pulling down. So the full range of motion, then controlling the weight up. We don't need you to be moving super fast. We don't want these hard momentum reps because they're gonna end up going into our lower back. So first exercise for you is going to be a pull down. So now we got our first exercise down. How to create some of that back thickness without hurting our lower back, because again, when we're doing back thickness, we're either gonna be doing some kind of a high row, or we're getting some protraction and scap retraction. And the best way to do that with the most amount of force, that's gonna give you the most amount of muscle recruitment, is going to be something where you're in this type of position. Only thing is your back hurts. You got a back injury or nagging issues and you just, So guess what we're gonna do? Chest support T-bar row. That's exactly what we're gonna do. Now, why am I not saying chest support or dumbbell row? Well, there's a couple things, right? Number one, getting into that is pretty tough. Anyone else get into a dumbbell chest support or row before? Two hands, you're like this, and you're kind of like getting on, then you gotta plop over and then, it's just not the best thing for your back. With this, very seamless. Even though this is chest support, doesn't mean that our lower back or our core is gonna be disengaged, because that's why a lot of people hurt themselves on this machine too. Why? Because they're like, oh, I got a chest support machine. And they sit in, they're like, all right, perfect. And then down here, it's just like, bleh. And they're kind of like this, and they're just lifting. And they're just like, all right, boom, great. And does anyone see what this looks like? This looks like just injury waiting to happen. So we wanna make sure we're setting up on this right. And for those of you who have back injuries or want to avoid the back injuries on this machine, here's how we're gonna set on this. Depending on where the foot plate is, you wanna line this up to where the top of this is right around the mid part of your sternum of your chest. You want it too far up here, and you don't want it too far down here, because down here, you're just not breathing and it's hurting. It's because down here it's uncomfortable and it restricts your breathing. So we wanna have it right here on our chest. Now we have our positioning set up from here. Let's readjust our feet. Let's give ourselves a good base. I would say a little bit outside hip width. And we're going to either press our toes into it or keep them locked in, depending on how tall you are. But from here, I wanna be engaged in my quads. I wanna act like I'm standing up or maybe just doing a plank. We have a good position here. We have stabilization, some leverage. Now, again, because I'm on this chest support, I wanna make sure my core is still engaged. So what does that feel like? Well, let me show you. Right now, core is not engaged. Right now, core is engaged. So when I'm here, I'm tensed here already. So I'm tense from the floor all the way to the core. Then when I grab my weight, our rep is gonna be, depending where you grab it, doesn't matter if you grab up here or here. For the sake of it, we're just worried about the chest support. Now from here, we're engaged from our legs. Our legs are not relaxed and just chilling out here while we're lifting. Our legs are gonna be active from here, almost like we can jump off this. Our core is gonna be engaged. Then we're gonna let our scaps protract, and then we're gonna pull ourselves into this bench. I'm not gonna pull and wrench myself up, because guess what? Lower back problem. What do I wanna do? I wanna keep my core tight, keep my chest up nice and tall, and then pretend that I'm pulling myself into the bench. I'm pulling myself down every rep and tight from the core. If you have to exaggerate your breath to force your core to stay engaged, do so. But when you breathe through or push through, our core is engaged the entire time, and that's gonna keep a lot of stress off our lower back. So to avoid more injury, more nagging back pain, just because we're on a chest support T-bar row doesn't mean we can disengage our core. Your core is still gonna be engaged. All right, so your third exercise is gonna be your seated row. You're probably like, oh, whoa, Johnny, wait a minute. My back hurts doing seated row too. It's like, chill out, relax. Let me just explain myself before we start getting to our head. Number one, anything that's gonna be chest support to give you minimal amount of lower back movement getting into the machine is always gonna be an advantage and a positive. If we're coming back from injury, it's because number one, we are engaging our core is probably weak, and two, our back muscles are weak just as well too, because if you're not engaging your core, it means your back is weak as well and needs to get stronger. So this is gonna put us in a great position to strengthen our lower back. Now, I've said this before, doing seated rows is quite the same as doing bent over row. You're just basically going from here horizontal to the vertical, right? You're doing the exact same thing. The only problem is when you're in this position, again, you're just very vulnerable and your lower back is just gonna be in a lot more of a challenging position to stabilize. Where here, we have either your foot pads or foot plates that are at your traditional seated row machines, or if you're at an at-home gym, you have something like this. We wanna make sure that we're engaged from here. And then we're extending from here, and again, we are going to be active in our quads, right? We don't wanna sit like this and then have our lower back trying to do all the work. When I say floor to core, I mean floor to core, meaning be engaged and present from here, pushing ourselves back. My quads are tight. And from here, I'm in a position, again, I'm trying to get as tall as I can. I'm raising my body up and keeping my core engaged. We want to be in this position so when we're rowing, our core's engaged, our lower back's engaged, and while we're doing the actual exercise, our core and our back are getting strong, being in a isometric hold or a static position, while your lats go through an isometric contraction, meaning they're moving. Isotonic or static, meaning not moving. Now, how are we gonna do this? Number one, back hurts. You know, you're on your way back from injury, been to physio, things are feeling pretty good. We're not just gonna do, like you see me right now just doing this, you get in here and you're not doing all that. I know I'm exaggerating, but you slow this down, some of y'all look like that. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure our lower back is in a great position. Now for me guys, if you guys ever watch closely, I do a lot of moving and bending and twisting like I'm actually doing the exercise. I will squat down, I will hinge down, but I won't round down unless I'm actually doing a stretch. So from this, you're gonna go grab your cables. You're gonna sit here. You're gonna get them right position. You're gonna stand up. Then you're gonna walk back to your seat, sit down, from your feet to your calves, your quads, nice and tall, chest is up, engaging that core. Now, we don't wanna do a lot of this. Now, I've coached that in the past and present, but that's for someone whose back is healthy and they're not coming back from injury. We wanna minimize lower back movement. But if your back is gonna move, this is how it's supposed to look. You can see how I'm using my hamstrings and glutes to pull my back, not just doing this. But just for safe sake, let's keep ourselves in this position here, nice and tall, and then we can still protract while keeping our core engaged and not bending at the hip, and pull. Stretch, pull. Stretch, pull. And again, your reps are going to be slower. Why? Because when they're slower, we can feel trouble coming around from the other corner. We can sense when danger is about to happen, because when we're doing a slower controlled rep, if we're pulling here, I'm like, oh, that hurts my lower back, we can just put it down. But if we're, and you actually do smash your back, then you have an issue. So again, let's keep our reps to that 1 second positive, 2 to 3 second negative, nice stretch at the lengthened part of lift, and pulling it again. And all the lifts that I said to do today, you're going to do it to the tune of breathing through your core. If you haven't noticed whether or not how you breathe, if you haven't noticed how you breathe or if you're engaging your core, you're gonna make noise now. I'm not saying deliberately go, I'm saying actually breathe. Because when you breathe, the core gets engaged. You can't exhale by doing a vacuum. So when you're breathing and contracting, we're pushing into our core. And while doing that, our lower back is protected as well too by being engaged. And there you have it. If you're 40 years old like myself or older, and you got lower back pain and you're wondering how the heck am I continue to train back, here's a video for you guys. Take these exercises, apply them to your life, take all the cues I told you because they're extremely important, and you can still have a successful back workout and you can still grow your back. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that video. For more videos like this, let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron, progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.